Oh, happy Monday, everybody. South Carolina coming off another disappointing loss as USC falls to 2-5 on the season. Joining us today for Mixing a Water Mondays, former Gamecock tight end Jacob August. And Jacob, unfortunately, during your Gamecock career, you guys had some losing skids that you guys had to overcome. What goes on behind the scenes as players as you're trying to turn this around, and some of the things that you guys talk about amongst each other as you're trying to get back to your winning ways?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Mike. Not the best situation that we're in as a Gamecock community, as a Gamecock program, but it's just reality that we're in. Um, my I guess it was my second year, the year Muschamp retired, going into my second year, halfway through the year. We dealt with some really similar, um, struggles. We had won one or two games going halfway. We were halfway into the year. And it was almost like a real come to Jesus moment, right? Um, we didn't know how to handle it, but now we do. Now, looking back on it, I do think that it comes back to the players, right? The coaches have said everything that they want to say, and they their messages can no longer be repeated as often as they are. So um, the players need to be the ones who sit down with one another, talk about what their intentions are for the rest of this year, and have a good approach going forward because um, the coaches are on the sideline, literally and figuratively. It's on the players at this point.
You mentioned the players have to take that step forward as leaders, and Shane Beamer mentioned some of it during halftime before he went into the locker room at halftime. As South Carolina, at one point they were trailing 24-0. They got the field goal before the half. I bring that up just because I think from the outside perspective, a lot of people make the players only meetings such a big deal, right? I bring that up, Jacob, because whether that's going on or whether practices have to be different, what does it truly take for some of these seniors? Because obviously you look towards your seniors to be able to turn things around, to be able to do, especially knowing that this team is so young and you have a lot of
Hmm.
underclassmen. And I'm not trying to blame any of the underclassmen for what's going
Yeah.
on, but it's real easy when you have people that don't know what being in college and what winning looks like to just go through the motions with it. And again, not saying that's what the freshmen are doing, but the importance right now of the seniors and the upperclassmen to make sure that there's not a change and a shift in the standard.
Yeah, someone needs to step up. There's so many different personalities, um, in a locker room. There's leaders, there's, as Dion says, there's leaders and there's dogs, there's individual contributors and there's motivators, right? There's all these different types of people within a locker room. Somebody who you necessarily didn't expect to be a vocal leader has got to change the norm, right? The problem is they're and this is within any organization, whether a football program or a business, you're stuck in the status quo. You're stuck in whatever the standard is, right? Right now the standard is 2-5. So something needs to change and someone needs to be that voice, whether actually using your voice or being that person on the field that says, okay, something's got to change and I'm going to be the catalyst for this change. So I don't know who that is. Um, but the players know who it is, the coaches know who it is, and there's no longer these conversations pulling them to the side saying, "Hey, we got to get you to do this. We got to get you to do that." That dude has got to be the one who comes into practice this week and says, "Something's going to change. I don't care how many feathers I ruffle. I'm going to be the change." And we're not going to know who that is until we see it on Saturday. But someone needs to be that catalyst.
Different coaching staff, of course, in comparison to who you played for, but I'm sure it's very similar across the board if you went from program to program across the country. When you're going through a skid like this, what is the message from your head coach? And what I mean by that is when you have underclassmen, especially very talented underclassmen, and we've seen some of those underclassmen have to get thrown into the mix. Some of them have earned opportunities. But because of the numerous injuries, we've seen a lot of underclassmen starting to start even
Hmm.
beginning of the year. Is there a message sent from the head coach during times like this? And again, we don't know the specifics of what Shane Beamer's saying to his team, but just from your time playing at South Carolina, as to, hey, if you're not getting the job done, we have some dudes here that are young, they're hungry, and they're 6, 7, 8 now, something weeks into the regular season, and they understand what playing college football is all about to a better extent in comparison to the beginning of the year. Is there
Yeah.
extra things being said to try to motivate some of the guys that are starters or even the two deep?
Yeah, well, I think Beamer internally with his coaches, with his fellow coaches have already decided who those people are going to be who need to take a step back for those freshmen to come in and those younger players to contribute. But Beamer isn't going to panic because if he panics, everyone panics. They've already had these conversations and they're going to start to implement them because they know that this season is what it is. Um, from a philosophy standpoint, as Coach Beamer, he's thinking about the big picture, right? Unfairly so, college football coaches, especially in the Power Five, they get judged on a weekly basis. Um, but Beamer, being I believe in Beamer. I think he's a great leader of young men. I still think he's the right guy for the job. He's thinking about the holistic approach of where this program needs to go, and he needs to stay on that path because we hired Beamer as a Gamecock community because we believe in the vision that he had and we believe in the person that he is. And that is a holistic view. It's not based off of weeks, 5 or 6 or 7 of the 2023 season. It's about we believe in what he's going to be doing from a schematic approach, and he's got to stay within that system that he believes that he is implementing. And all we can do as fans is hope that the bigger picture that he sees in his head is what's going to take the Gamecocks to the promised land. So he's going to do what he needs to do in terms of the roster moves that can help us be as successful as possible next year. My message to the Gamecock faithful is stay patient. So many times people lose patience, and whenever there's a coach, year 3 you expect things to be better and better and better, but that's not necessarily it's not point A to point B to point C to point C in a perfect route, right? There's going to be some downfalls. We believed in Beamer when we hired him. We're going to continue, and we should continue to believe in him in year 3, and I think things will happen for the better in the long run, because that's the only option we have. We have to have faith in him, and I want to have faith with him, and I will have faith in him.
I keep bringing up the senior leadership. And as you know, I mean, even playing at the DT level, we all know that when you're going through a tough time, you look towards those seniors, especially for the underclassmen, because they're trying to still figure out what college football is all about. You're looking towards them. But at this level, as you know, and the fans know as well, it's big boy football. And
Hmm.
regardless of the position, when it comes to positional coaches, could be a coordinator, wherever the case may be, people are going to be very loud about, hey, this person should not be here. Or, hey, we got to move on from this person. But having said all that, how important are the seniors to be able to help those underclassmen and be able to help the team out in general with blocking out all this? Because it's so much easier said than done in terms of, oh yeah, ignore the outside noise, block it all out. It's like, well, when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, you're around your phone. And even if it's
Yeah,
not your phone, it's mom, it's dad, it's someone that's a friend or a cousin, girlfriend, whoever. People, I'm sure, relay things back saying, hey, you hear what they're saying about your positional coach. Hey, you hear what they're saying about your coordinator. Again, unfortunately, you had to go through some of this during your time at South Carolina. What role does the seniors play in trying to help keep that noise on the outside? And what other advice would you give players?
yeah. I mean, you know, Beamer has always been the type of guy and the type of coach that has love within his program and embodies love for one another. So if he's done a good job with that, which I think he has, the freshmen and sophomores and juniors, they're going to make sure that they send these seniors off the right way, because the seniors have been there for, you know, if not their entire career, a lot of their career. So, um, the program and philosophy that Beamer has implemented into the system is motivation enough for these younger guys to help out these seniors go off on the right foot. But these seniors, they're 2-5. They don't want to be 2-10. They'll be the first one to tell you, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure that they're not 2-10, and that they go 1-0 next week, and they go 1-0 the next week, and 1-0 and 1-0 and 1-0. So their demeanor and their work ethic within practice on a daily basis is going to be conversation enough. Um, I really think at the end of the day that's it. You know, these kids are young. They're the freshmen and sophomore. They're still kids, right? They're gonna whatever they see on a daily basis is what they're gonna is who they're gonna become. So, you know, these seniors are gonna lead through example. They're gonna show them that through adversity, you still continue to go, and you know, that's really all you can ask from that standpoint. Um, I will say it is tough being a former Gamecock player, Gamecock fan, and you know, seeing talent-wise, the best quarterback in the history of Gamecock football and not being able to utilize him the way that, um, you know, his talent portrays. So that is tough, but these guys are gonna continue to play football. They're not going home. They're not packing up now. They're gonna continue to fight, and, you know, as Gamecock fans, we gotta continue to fight with them.
Jacob, I want to play one soundbite for you real quick before we wrap things up, because I thought it shows just the tremendous leadership that Spencer Rattler has already possessed, but it showed it to another level. The other night, as we know, the offense wasn't able to get anything going, especially in the red zone. And you know, it's easy to look at the offensive line. We can look at wide receivers not creating separation, all that stuff. It all goes hand in hand. But I want you to hear this quick soundbite from Rattler and just your reaction on being a player in that locker room. If you hear your quarterback saying this immediately after the game, and what it could do just from a mental standpoint of just the way you approach the rest of the week and the rest of the season as you move forward. So we're just going to take a listen for people that didn't have a chance to hear this. Nick Gargiulo, the offensive lineman, was asked a question about, you know, what is it like seeing your quarterback take the beating that he took the other day? And Nick answered the question truthfully. And then Spencer cut him off and had this to say.
And look, these guys, they work their tail off every single day. I know that you know, we get pressured a lot. You know, a lot of that is when the back end is, you know, they're covering really well. They have a great scheme. You know, like I said, they did a great job. That's not all on the O-line. You know, I don't want the narrative to be, oh, the O-line this, O-line that. Some of those sacks are my fault. Some of those sacks are our receivers' fault not getting open. It's a team thing truly on this offense, and we do not point fingers. We do not do none of that. So I just want to get that out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want in your leader, right? He's delegating, he's taking responsibility, he's making sure that these guys don't go home with the, you know, their head as low as it already is, and he's the kind of guy that you want to play for. You know, I loved playing with Jake Bentley. I love playing with all my quarterbacks. Spencer Rattler would be somebody that I love to play with as well, and you know, that's what he shows, and that's the type of leader that you want with an organization. I know the wins aren't showing it, but I'll stand on my grave saying that I'm happy as hell that Spencer Rattler is a South Carolina Gamecock.
Well, hopefully the wins will start to happen again soon as South Carolina travels to College Station this week and take on Texas A&M, trying to get their third win on the year. Jacob, appreciate you hopping on and joining us today on Mixing a Water Monday.
Go Cox.